Peace, power, and love. What's going on, everybody out there? This is your one and only Consul Sheshmuamu with the infallible, undeniable team Osiris and team All Set. And you're listening to another live broadcast in regards to current events. And the current events today is the Trump election. But we want to take a scholarly approach to the recent chain of events, kind of put our 2 cents out there, give some commentary on current events as we embark on a new era in politics in America, North America, and primarily dealing with the science of politics. What is the science of politics? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play some empirical data. I want you to listen and watch. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to watch some words of Donald Trump. All right? That we will do. Everybody see my screen?
Hey, you good?
All right. So this is Donald Trump talking about what you had to lose. Take it away, Donald.
No group in America has been more harmed by Hillary Clinton's policies than African Americans. No group. No group. If Hillary Clinton's goal was to inflict pain on the African American community, she could not have done a better job. It's a disgrace. Tonight, I'm asking for the vote of every single African American citizen in this country who wants to see a better future. Look how much African American communities have suffered under Democratic control. To those I say the following: what do you have to lose by trying something new like Trump? What do you have to lose? I say it again, what do you have to lose? Look, what do you have to lose? You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose? America must reject the bigotry of Hillary Clinton, who sees communities of color only as votes, not as human beings worthy of a better future. No group in America.
Now, interesting perspective from the Donald. Now, one thing in particular we did an expose on propaganda earlier part of 2016, and we talked about rhetoric being very powerful in the political realm. Now, before we get too deep into it, let me carry on with the tradition of Consul and Team Osiris by setting the tone. So I'm going to set the tone. Donald Trump actually likes cigars too. Go figure.
It's been a minute.
Shout out Papa Legba, door opener of the way, knowledge, wisdom, peace, love, and prosperity. Ashe. So, let's talk about this Donald Trump. If we listen to the statement that Donald Trump made, a lot of people who heard this clip didn't hear the entirety. What they heard was sound bites. This is what political journalists do. That's what media does. If you understand the context of what he said Hillary Clinton has passed laws that have affected more African Americans than anyone in history. He's actually correct. She's passed more laws under her husband's administration, her as a senator and secretary of Treasury, that created more impasses for our people as an ethnic group. So he came with a layman's approach. He said, what have you got to lose? How worse could it get when you're already at the bottom of the barrel? Spoken like a realist. Are we not? Are we jaded? Do we actually think this country was fair for the last 300 years? Even though we've been in slavery for 500? Do we really think that Beyonce and Jay-Z matter? Do we actually believe that we're equals? Do we really think going to universities and getting degrees of knowledge justify you as a Black person? Or have we been and always will be perpetually under the fist of global white supremacy? I tend to say there are three classes of people: white people, non-white people, and white supremacists. And in these three classifications, white people benefit from the history of white supremacy, and Black people, non-white people, like Black people, repress from the constant oppression of white supremacy. So I say this in regards to us being logical and sensical about the matter. Excluding Barack Obama, who may have been bigoted, a lot of us are bigoted as Black people, non-white people, because we've gone through a lot of slavery oppression. So we have a right to be bigoted, but we could never be racist because we never were in a position of power in the US to invoke or attack or be or feel superior to any other race. However, 45 other presidents, Trump being 46, 45 other presidents were racist, clearly. So when did it change? Because Barack was in office? Do we understand political process? Do we realize what an electoral college is? Do we know what the popular vote is? Do we understand what the Congress, i.e. Senate, is? Do we realize that Barack Obama for 8 years had to deal with a Republican-based Senate, which would almost nullify any chances of his legislations getting put in place? Think about that. Be very logical about it, because the political process serves a purpose. In society, in economy, in commonwealth, politics exist in all cultures. So let's attack this logically, not emotionally. So I'm gonna open the floor initially because I wanna present some other data. But before I do that, let's open the floor to the distinguished panel. We have Neferka with Team O.S.I.R.I.S. We got Melvin the Archivist with Team O.S.I.R.I.S. And we got Haru, the babyface bandit, with Team O.S.I.R.I.S. Queen Neferka, I defer the floor to you. What is your interpretation of the clip that I played with Donald?
I mean, I think I believe it's factual. You know what I mean? Obviously it is rhetoric, but he made some true statements. And I think that what people don't realize, and I may not necessarily be speaking so much to people who might be watching this now, but I did have an interesting conversation with a brother today who, was very adamant about the things that the Democratic Party has done for Black people. And I explained to him that I grew up in New York. So I've had the experience of what Donald Trump, who he is in that city. I've had the experience of the politics of Hillary Clinton. She ran for state senate there. And I could say that there was nothing that she did that really changed the face or changed the lives of Black people in that city. It just didn't. you know, I mean, of course, she pandered to us. You know what I mean? She tried to campaign in our neighborhoods, things of that nature. But it's never been about us. And I think we have this misconception that, you know, just because somebody shows their face at a Jay-Z or Beyonce concert, that automatically means that they care about us as Black people. Just the same way when Bill Clinton played that weak ass saxophone on Arsenio Hall. And that's all we needed. That's all we needed. Yeah, he's one of us. Look at some of the legislation he passed, the things that he did that were damaging to us, you know, that his administration did. And even as Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, I mean, come on, look at what she did in Libya. You know what I'm saying? So I just kind of feel like it's the truth. Now, in all honesty, do I think that Trump has our best intentions in mind as Black people? No. But I don't even think he has the good intentions towards the people who voted for him, towards his base, blue collar, working class white people. He is a rich white man, and he cares about rich white people. That's it. So I don't think he gives a damn about me, but he don't give a damn about those people that voted for him either. He's gonna do what most politicians in this country do. He's gonna cater to the rich. So to me, this is more of a question. It's not even about a color. It's about class, rich and poor. That's basically what this is about. You got it or you don't. If you think that being under a Trump administration, that you're going to go to work every day and get your paycheck and be good with that, you better think again, because that's not what this is about. And that's not what this administration is going to cater to. And what we need to do, instead of being so emotional, not to say that we can't feel a certain way about the things that he said, the bigoted comments that he made. He has made those. He's a racist. But most politicians that we put in office are. They just won't say that they are. So what we need to do, instead of being emotional and hurt feelings and, well, he doesn't care about us and he doesn't care about Black people. Well, most of these people don't. These people don't care about us. None of them do. I could argue whether Barack Obama gave a damn. He didn't care neither. What we need to do is see how we could benefit from the policies that he's probably going to make. What things could we do if we have a small business? Or how could we be entrepreneurs? Because I think those are the people that are going to be catered to. People who have business, people who are dealing in different industries. And that's where we need to be empowered and stop caring about all this other nonsense that really doesn't matter. So that's my piece. It was very long, but that's how I feel about it.
No, it wasn't. Very well said. Very well said, Queen. Brother Heru.
Yo, peace to the family, peace to the panel. I'll put it to you like this, man. I don't really give two fucks about either candidate, really. The thing is, I really think everybody's blowing this whole thing out of proportion. I don't think whether Hillary or Donald, whichever one of them would be in office, would anything change for African Americans? No. Only thing that's gonna change is if we actually do something our damn selves. So I don't see why we got Black people moping around the neighborhoods and getting all uptight and, you know, about Trump being the president, because it's nothing new. The 44, 45 motherfuckers that came before him didn't give a damn. So what's different now? I don't know. I really think that Black people think that he's gonna bring slavery back or something. That's what it seems. But I mean, it's to me, it's just ridiculous. I mean, I got more on it, but we're gonna go deeper in a little bit. But that's my short analysis on this whole situation.
Yes, sir. Ashe. Wise words being spoken. Brother Mel, the archivist. Speak your piece, King.
Yeah, I think Brother Heru and Sister Nefaka already pretty much nailed that coffee shop. But I will add, it's stirred up a lot of emotion, especially over social media. So you kind of see the response of most people, especially here in Richmond. They had a thing last night where some of the people in the city were, up to like 2 or 3 a.m., just flooding the streets and arguing. So it gets people emotionally upset. But to me, I looked at Trump as a tactician. He's going to do things to piss people off. He has an agenda, like most politicians. Most people just don't see that. And so instead of getting emotional, I recommend that we look into his history. That's what kind of stated he is from New York, so a New Yorker would know him better than anyone else. And you understand who he's there for, you understand what his purpose is, and you just find a way to fit yourself in his agenda so that you and yours can benefit from it. That's all you can do. That's all I really want to say.
I say peace, man, and that's fact. He's I appreciate the words that everybody lent to the audience, because one thing about Team is we believe in fundamentalism. You need to have the fundamental knowledge to be able to quantumize subject matter, to deem yourself scholarly. A lot of times people gloss over information. I'm going to do an upcoming show on critical reading 2.0 to get really in depth of the skill and art of critical reading, critical writing, and critical thinking. It's critical that everyone utilizes these skills, because a lot of times we gloss over things because we tend to have an affinity for a certain subject. Maybe within a contextual conversation, something sparks you and you're motivated about that and that only, but you miss the entire conversation. So when I played that clip, this is the art of rhetoric and an ability to persuade your audience. Because if someone alters that speech, which has already been done, you will see the key elements were left out of that speech because Trump has been branded. What has he been branded? A racist. What has he been branded? He represents those who represent the Confederate flag. Nothing could be farther from the truth or the fact. Which one? Because in truth versus fact, there are facts, and then there are perspectives that create certain truths for an individual. So what you may deem a truth may not necessarily be held in fact. It'll just be in truth. And you live in that truth as you choose to live. This is the importance of political science. Okay, and I'm going to get into a short presentation on what political science is, okay, and the elements of political science. One key element as Black people in North America is the ability to organize and the ability to structure that organized movement in a pristine fashion. Focus on a point or an agenda of goal and reach it. That has always been a problem with our people because we have bigotry within the African American paradigm. We don't exhibit racism, but we definitely have bigotry, light skin, dark skin, the have and have nots, in shape, out of shape, Catholic, Baptist. We fight, we separate over these things. I live on the west side, you live on the east side. I'm from Brooklyn, you're from Queens. So I'm not going to talk to the guys from Queens. But on the grand scale of things, you're all Black, poor, and broke. And you're defenseless, as Donald Trump so eloquently described. And I appreciate his insight and the information he divulged at that moment, because it couldn't be more factual. We are defenseless. We have no gross domestic product. It is important that you look up the phrase gross domestic product. We don't produce anything at gross rate that is domestic within our culture. We only consume what's given to us. So we don't have a face in the political technology and science that governs our country. That does not mean that the system doesn't work. What it means is we're uneducated about it. Now, emotionally, people are going to say it never worked and it never will. Unfortunately, it does work, because the reason we're on this hangout and have the ability to talk the way we're talking right now was due to the right to vote and the right to motivate Congress. When you don't vote, this is what affects the ability of this being taken from us. So don't get that twisted, because the white supremacist depends on your survival. They don't depend on your destruction. They depend on your controlled survival. If they wanted to eliminate all of us, it would have already been done. But if you eliminate the slave, who's going to feed the master? So you have to use common logic when dealing with these matters and not get caught up in the emotional aspects of what's going on. So what I'm going to do is open the panel for any comments they want to make based on what was said before I get into this short presentation. Go ahead, panel. It's open. The floor is open if you're motivated to say some things, because I know this is real dynamic and we're about to dissect this. So go ahead, family.
Not that it really needs to be seen this way, but I guess just for people to understand, we don't endorse him. You know what I'm saying? We don't endorse Donald Trump. You know, just because we're saying that something that he said makes sense, because that's the first thing that's going to get said. If you say that you agree with anything that he said, that we endorse the shit that he's on, we don't. But at the same time, I think it's important just to understand that you have to look at things with your eyes wide open. You can't just always, like it's already been said, just behave emotionally. Because somebody may have been painted a certain way in the media, or because they are. I mean, he is a bigot. There's no twist around that. He is racist as hell. He's always been that way. But the way that he's been, the picture or the image that's been given to him is as somebody who speaks to the people who are like Consul said, that hold a Confederate flag, whereas those people are not even the people that he represents at all. So I just think that's something that, you know, everybody needs to bear in mind. We don't endorse him. We're just trying to give the people an opportunity to deal with the situation with an open mind.
I appreciate it. Appreciate it, Queen. Anyone else before I go in? Peace to Brother Christopher, by the way. Christopher, one of the members of Team Osiris on the horizon. Peace, bro. Anyone else want to expound before I go in?
Yeah, I think she hit the nail on the head, because Trump, he was trying to win a presidency. He was trying to win a political spot as the commander in chief. A lot of people are kind of taken back that he seems to represent the Confederacy, like she was saying. He seems to represent that. He seems to represent the KKK. But in actuality, I personally don't think he represents them himself. I think that he was just trying to gain votes, and any way he could gain votes, he was going to take them. I think that's the perspective on that. You know, anybody that's going to jump out and say, "Hey, I'm supporting Donald Trump," he's going to go ahead and take those votes. But if you understand politics, that's how politicians are. They're going to find a way to get votes anyway, anyhow. They campaign neighborhoods all over this country, not just black neighborhoods, not just middle class neighborhoods. They campaign everything all over this country. Anybody that's willing to vote for them, they're going to go ahead and take those votes, and it just is what it is. And I'm gonna speak on that a little bit. Then we're gonna get into the next topic.
Let me quantumize this in understanding. The root word of Republican Party is republic. The root word of a Democratic Party is democracy, meaning to demolish or demote those of wealth and to disperse that wealth evenly amongst the people. Now, us historiologically, when we were at our peak in business and commerce between 1900 and 1930, were Republicans, because it was before integration. And we had our own flourishing country, our communities, and our own flourishing business. We had banks. Our biggest resource was actually funeral homes, a huge number of funeral homes and insurance companies, due to the fact of our mortality rate and the impending slavery, which had affected our overall health. So we were flourishing within our communities. What happened was democracy. When democracy came into place, it promoted integration, which then took away our cultural center, the cultural center that we had, little of it that we did have, that we were establishing. Because remember, we were taken from our homeland and brought into a land in which we had no continental culture. And not having that continental culture disrupted our ability to be connected to one another in a spiritual way. So we did not have the ability to flourish in an environment or even given the opportunity as a peer amongst other groups because our diaspora was horrific. Some of us are byproducts of ancestors that were not directly related to us. Very few of us can find a direct continental ancestor. We can only find genetic traces of where we began, but we cannot touch on our genetic base. Now, what I do mean by this also is that as Black people of non-white distinction, we have to think of developing our own political party that is catered to us and will harness those votes and treat those votes as money. Regardless if we win a political office, that's not the goal. The goal is to be recognized as a class of people. Excuse me. So in order to be recognized as a class of people, we have to protect and create our own commonwealth. So I want to give a quick presentation. I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to give some definition and understanding of some of the terms that you may have been subject to. You see my screen panel?
Yes, sir. You good?
All right. So we're going to talk about the science of politics. And the agenda in showing you this, everyone that's viewing, is what is political science? What is the popular vote? And what is the Electoral College? Because if we understand, Donald Trump won the electoral vote, whereas Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. So now think about this, Black people that are watching this. Hillary Clinton, if you look at her history, has signed more bills that affected the living conditions of Black people. NAFTA, 3 strikes, ours 2, to name a few. Okay? Now, this does not mean I'm endorsing Trump or Hillary, because they are white supremacists and they don't have my best interest at heart. So I endorse neither. However, the facts of the matter remain, not my own personal truth, but the facts of the matter remain. We live in a capitalist government that is run and is located in Washington, D.C. And we acquiesce to these laws, statutes that preside over our well-being. So what is the Electoral College? The Electoral College process consists of the selection of the electors. And we're going to get into more, remember what I said about that, because we're going to get into what the electors are. The meeting of the electors where they vote for president and vice president, and the counting of the electoral votes by Congress. The Electoral College consists of 538 electors. A majority of 270 electoral votes is required to elect the president. Your state's entitled allotment of electors equals the number of members in its congressional delegation. I want y'all to remember that, because it's a little thing called the census that a lot of us ignore because of conspiracy theories, but has never been proven. The census determines how many electoral votes you get to represent the number of people in the state. Each state is sovereign of the federal government, and they operate under their own governed political structure. Henceforth, every state has a governor, a congressman, and a senator, along with a state rep. Your state's entitled allotment of electors equals the numbers of members in its congressional delegation. 1 for each member in the House of Representatives, plus 2 for your senators. That's what I spoke of earlier. Read more about the allocation of electoral votes. So look up the allocation of electoral votes. Under the 23rd Amendment of the Constitution, the District of Columbia is allocated 3 electors and treated like a state for purposes of the Electoral College. For this reason, in the following discussion, the word state also refers to the District of Columbia, henceforth DC. Each candidate running for president in your state has his or her own group of electors. The electors are generally chosen by the candidate's political party. This is why we need a political party that will hold these electoral votes hostage under amnesty for our people. But state laws vary on how the electors are selected and what their responsibilities are. So I want you to read more about the qualifications of electors and restrictions on who the electors may vote for. Everyone that's listening, like, comment, share this video. Share this video with your younger people at home. Share this video with your friends and colleagues for educational purposes, because we have to be fundamentalists if we're going to be organizers and strategizers in our own prospective areas. So we have to be knowledgeable of the beast that we're up against, and we can't use blind emotion with just fists up in the air and cardboard and Sharpies. We have to be educated as to what's going on around us, because at the end of the day, we live in this. Okay? We know that the presidential election is held every 4 years on the Tuesday after the first Monday in November. You help choose your state's electors when you vote for president. You don't elect them. You help them become elected, because your popularity sways the elector. This is a misnomer that a lot of us are under the impression that when we cast a ballot, we cast a ballot for the election. We cast a ballot to assist in the election that is made by Congress. Barack Obama had to deal with a Republican House under his presidential reign. When you vote for your candidate, you're actually voting for your candidate's electors. Most states have a winner-take-all system that awards all electors to the winning presidential candidate. However, Maine, Nebraska, each have a variation of proportional representation. So read more about the allocation of electors among the states and try to predict the outcome of the Electoral College vote, because you can actually do that a lot more precisely than you can looking at the popular vote. That's for TV, gods and goddesses, kings and queens. This is for TV, ratings. After the presidential election, your governor prepares a certificate of ascertainment. The governor. Why? Because he is the president of that state that has joined a union, United States, listing all of the candidates who ran for president in your state, along with the names of their respective electors. The certificate of ascertainment also declares the winning presidential candidate in your state and shows which electors will represent your state at the meeting of the electors in December of the election year. So your state's ascertainment certificates, forget the typo please, of ascertainments are sent to the Congress and the National Archives as part of the official records of the presidential election. Go to key dates for the 2016 election in Google. And information about the roles and responsibilities of state officials. Everything that's underlined, I want you to check out for yourself and get your own understanding. The Office of the Federal Register and the National Archives and Records Administration, NARA, and the Congress in the Electoral College process. So the meeting of the electors take place on the first Monday after the second Wednesday in December after the presidential election, which was yesterday. The electors meet in their respective states where they cast their votes for president and vice president on separate ballots. Your state's electors' votes are recorded on a certificate of vote. I'm sorry, last Wednesday, forgive me, which is prepared at the meeting by the electors. Your state certificates of votes are sent to Congress and the National Archives as a part of the official records of the presidential election. Did you hear that? These records are official through the Electoral College. See the key dates for the 2016 election. Once again, all right? Each state's electoral votes are counted in a joint session of Congress on the 6th of January in the year following the meeting of the electors. Members of the House and Senate meet in the House chamber to conduct the official tally of electoral votes. On December 28, 2012, this is an example, President Obama signed Public Law 112, Statute 112, Stat 112, 228 through 228. Stat means page, as passed by both houses of Congress, moving the day of the vote count from January 6, 2013, which was a Sunday, to January 4th, 2013, which was a Monday. A Friday. See the key dates of, once again, for that 2016 election. The vice president, as president of the Senate, presides over the count and announces the results of the vote. The president of the Senate then declares which persons, if any, have been elected president and vice president of the United States. The president-elect takes the oath of office and is sworn in as president of the United States on January 20th in the year following the presidential election. So now we're going to get into the electors. See, when you understand the political process, you realize you're just not walking up in there, dropping a piece of paper or punching a hole and dropping it in that box, or now punching it on that screen, and you're thinking what you're actually doing. What you're doing is assisting your electors. So the key is influencing and controlling the electors of your state. That means that you have to get more involved in local politics. That means that you have to understand the senators in your state, the state reps in your state, the congressmen in your state. Pay attention to which judges are elected. Pay attention to the local mayor, sheriff, and fire marshal. Pay attention to that. Because if you don't, you can't complain politics don't work if you don't know the quantum mechanics. Because if you don't understand the quantum mechanics, it will affect the overall quantum physics of the election. And because of rhetoric and propaganda, you're going to be falsely influenced as if a travesty happened. But non-participation turns into subjugation. Now, the electors' votes are allocated based on the census. The allocations below are based on the 2010 census. So they're going to be effective. The census that was taken in 2010 is going to be effective for the 2012, 2016, and 2020 presidential elections. So that counts for the total of electoral votes of 538, with a majority to elect at 270. This should be the primary goal as to who we want to be president. Because who we elect, we don't have a choice to select, because we don't attack the electors. What are the qualifications to be an elector? The U.S. Constitution, empirical data, primary evidence, contains few provisions relating to the qualifications of electors. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 provides that no senator or rep or person holding an office of trust or profit on the United States shall be appointed an elector. As a historical matter, the 14th Amendment provides that state officials who have engaged in the insurrection or rebellion against the United States or given aid and comfort to its enemies are disqualified from serving as electors. This prohibition relates to the post-Civil War era. This is key. Side note, this is key because this was the influence that was used to these slaves. I call us prisoners of war. We were not slaves. We were prisoners of war. We were there against our own free will under acts of terrorism. Because we have to use modern terms for modern actions. We are terrorist victims. We are prisoners of war. And there should be sanctions that should be held against the United States for their acts of terrorism upon the Republic. This is what we should focus on, and not using archaic terms like slave, because it doesn't apply to today. We are dealing with an oligarchy, a geopolitical military complex, and we should address them in the present state that they are in. Each state's certificates of ascertainment confirms the names of its appointed electors. A state's certification of its electors is generally sufficient to establish the qualification of electors. Who selects the electors? Choosing each state electors is a two-part process. First, the political parties in each state choose slates of potential electors sometime before the general election. Second, on election day, the voters in each state select their state's electors by casting their ballots for president. Did you hear that? The political parties select the electors. That's why we cannot select who we elect. So if we develop our own ethnic-based political party, we can select the electors we want to elect. And because we are deemed a minority, however, there are more of us, non-white people, than white people and white supremacists, we can control the elector. In breaking down the first part of the process is controlled by the political parties, okay? And in each state, it varies from state to state generally. The parties either nominate slates of potential electors at their state party conventions, or they choose them by a vote of the party's central committee. This happens in each state for each party, whatever rules the state party and sometimes the national party have for the process. So this first part of the process results in each presidential candidate having their own unique slate of potential electors. Political parties often choose electors for the slate to recognize their service and dedication to that political party. They may be state elected officials, state party leaders, or people in the state who have a personal or political affiliation with their party's presidential candidate. Now, the second part, and I can't stress this enough, your local politics are the most powerful form of politics because your local politics will dictate your state. As it dictates your state, you're now able to have an actual voice in the federal government when it comes to the federal political process. There are 3 levels of politics: local, national, and international. The second part of the process happens on election day. When the voters in each state cast votes for the presidential candidate of their choice, they're voting to select their state's electors. That's what you're doing. The potential electors' names may or may not appear on the ballot below the name of the presidential candidates, depending on election procedures and ballot formats in each state. So what do we need to do? Affect the state lobbying and state laws on how those voters for electors should be exposed. Who are the electors that nominated Donald Trump? The winning presidential candidates' slate of potential electors are appointed as the state's electors, except in Nebraska and Maine, which have proportional distribution of the electors. In Nebraska and Maine, the state winner receives 2 electors, and the winner of each congressional district, who may be the same as the overall winner or a different candidate, which receives 1 elector. So this system permits the electors from Nebraska and Maine to be awarded more than 1 candidate. Are there restrictions on who the electors can vote for? Listen to this. There is no constitutional provision or federal law that requires electors to vote according to the results of the popular vote in their states. Some states, however, require electors to cast their votes according to the popular vote. Now, what does that mean? Before I go on, that means that if we show that we can coexist and have a unified mindset or goal, then we control the electors that are influenced by us, regardless of who's put in front of you. The elector can vote to re-elect Barack Obama if they want to. This is where you had some conspiracies that claim Barack Obama would run for a third term. It's possible because the electors can deem it. If that person fills out a presidential ballot, if the electors agree, they can re-elect. These pledges fall into two categories: electors bound by state law and those bound by pledges to political parties. You hear that? They fall into two categories: the electors bound by state and those bound by pledges to a certain party. So if the elector pledges to our party, guess what that means? We have the true, certified, historiological vote in our favor. The U.S. Supreme Court has held that the Constitution does not require that electors be completely free to act as they choose, and therefore, political parties may extract pledges from electors to vote for the party's nominees. So some state laws provide that so-called faithless electors may be subject to fines or may be disqualified for casting an invalid vote and may be replaced by a substitute elector. The Supreme Court has not specifically ruled on the question of whether pledges and penalties for failure to vote as pledged may be enforced under the Constitution. So there's no written law for that. No elector has been even prosecuted for failing to vote as pledged. Today, it's rare for electors to disregard the popular vote by casting their electoral vote for someone other than their party's candidate. Electors generally hold a leadership position in their party or were chosen and recognized years of loyal service to the party. Throughout our history as a nation, more than 99% of electors have voted as pledged. So what's the popular vote? It's really simple. Popular vote simply means an aggregate of all voters from all states in America. The candidate who gets the most votes nationwide is said to have won the popular vote. But the winner of the popular vote may end up losing the election, like Al Gore did in the year 2000, Hillary in 2016. The 2012 presidential election, Mitt Romney won 48% of the popular vote, but only 38% of the electoral vote. Mitt Romney against who? Who did Mitt Romney run against? There were no complaints, but the same thing happened. That's Barack Obama. This is because although Americans vote directly for the chosen candidate, excuse me, in the presidential election every 4 years, the president is elected by the institution called the Electoral College. So if we're saying the Electoral College doesn't work, well, those of you who supported Barack Obama, it worked for him when he lost publicly to Mitt Romney. So the people were already in a Donald Trump mindset because Mitt Romney was a private business person, the same as Donald Trump. The country wanted that. However, the Electoral College was influenced by Barack Obama. These are the disadvantages. I'll kind of, for the sake of time, you can replay. I'll leave this up and you can replay it to get an understanding because I don't want to, just hit you with all data and it gets boring. This stuff is boring sometimes. But this speaks to the disadvantages of the Electoral College, okay? And how typically blue states, Democratic states like California, or red states like Texas can be deeply influenced by the Electoral College. This is why states like California, Texas, Florida are looked at and sometimes are swing states that can truly affect the election because of the influence of the electorals. This is very important. And these are the advantages of the electoral vote over a popular vote. Once again, I'll leave this up here for a moment so that those who want to review and look at what we're speaking to, due to the time constraints, I want to keep everybody's focus. But this is the advantage of the electoral vote over a popular vote, okay, in my opinion. And different winners of the electoral vote and popular vote, how it has gone under criticism. When you had George Bush, who was an electoral vote winner, versus Al Gore in 2000. You had Benjamin Harrison, which was an electoral vote winner over Grover Cleveland in 1888. You had Rutherford B. Hayes, which was a winner over Samuel J. Tilden in 1876. You have John Quincy Adams, who won the electoral vote in 1824, but he lost it to the popular vote to Andrew Jackson. And as of 2013, a Gallup poll was taken, and the majority of Americans would prefer to do away with the Electoral College for presidential elections. This is very important. I'm going to read through this quickly. Lobbying is a key to political influence. And we have to look in and study lobbying for what it is. Now, I'm not saying that the political process is the end-all, be-all, and we should sell out to it. What I'm saying is we should learn it and utilize it on our way to liberation from it. But we have to learn it in order to fight it. So lobbyists play a major role in influencing electors and influencing Senate and Congress. Very, very important, because any attempt by individuals or private interest groups to influence the decision of government, this is what a lobbyist does. In its original meaning, it referred to efforts to influence the votes of legislators, generally in the lobby outside the legislative chamber. Lobbying in some form is inevitable in any political system. So lobbying, which has gained special attention in the U.S., takes many forms. Group reps may appear before legislative committees. Public officials may be buttonholed in legislative offices, meaning that they may be forced to follow a lobbyist's intent due to the popular demand. Hotels or private homes. Letters may be written or telephone calls may be made to public officials. Campaigns may be organized for this purpose. Organizations may provide favored candidates with money and services. This is what one of our great elders have spoken of in the past. Of course, the elder that speaks on powernomics. Massive public relations, campaigns, employing of all the techniques of modern communication may be launched to influence public opinion. So extensive research into complex legislative proposals may be supplied to legislative committees by advocates of various and often conflicting interests. So I'll leave that there. Of course, we're back live. And this is very, very important, because I wanted everyone to understand the quantumization of politics, the actual science of politics, as we get into the science of Donald Trump in the next part of the show. But I want to open the floor to any questions, comments, or claims. I will start with Queen Neferka. I digress. Okay, Queen Neferka must not be there. I'll open the floor.
I'm sorry. I'm here. I'm here.
All right.
But I'm actually good on questions. I don't really have any.
Okay. Do you have any observations or claims that you would like to make in regards?
No, not right now. I think you pretty much did your thing on that.
Okay. Brother Mel. Or Brother Haru. I hear you in the background.
Yeah, no, definitely. You broke down that properly. I wish you would have, touched on swing states a bit more. Currently, most of us, and I know I live in one, but I also thought it was funny how a president who's in the election can elect himself from the popularity vote, and how they're not able to do the same through the electoral. And that should speak volumes to people to understand that there's a difference. And like, you can't necessarily vote for yourself on one instance and then on the other, on how that's just influence from the popularity vote.
Exactly. Could you break down the understanding of swing state for the listeners, by all means?
Well, to my understanding, Swing states are basically particular states in the country that have more, they have a chance of having more electoral votes.
Correct.
They have two parties, and those parties usually go back and forth, and so this is why they're called swing states. The results could eventually change depending on which party has the most influence in the state.
That's
And
correct, brother.
that's all based on the voters. Whichever ones get the most support, usually they'll be the ones who win.
That's correct. Our brother Chris, any comments or plans or any questions, bro? All right, brother Heru.
Oh yeah. Man, I appreciate what you just did, man. You broke that down so eloquently. That to me, that is middle school civics right there. A lot of that stuff I learned in middle school, in the public school. Irony in that. And it's just, I think it's just kind of weird how we don't retain that and we don't understand. I'm sorry about that. That's somebody around me. That's not that car, but nah, I just think it's kind of weird that we don't retain that knowledge when it comes to the political system. And I think sometimes some candidates play on the ignorance of the general public, not just black people, but the general public in general, because it's not just black people that are outraged by this decision. It's America as a whole. A lot of people in America that are outraged by this particular decision. So I'm glad you really broke that down so people can understand that really in a nutshell, the popular vote, it doesn't mean anything except to maybe sway the electoral college. But we see that that doesn't mean anything, because if we look at the electoral college votes, Trump he won by a landslide, even though the popular vote stated that she actually would have won the election if that actually counted. So it's just such a paradox to me that the American general public doesn't understand that. The black community too, especially black community. I can really speak from that perspective because these are the people that I deal with on a daily basis more than I deal with any other ethnic group. So I'm walking around these neighborhoods and I'm seeing the frustrations, and I'm seeing people being so melancholy about what just happened. And the majority of these people, you got half of them saying, hey, we need to participate in this, we need to vote. Then you got the other half, I ain't voting, I ain't fucking with that shit, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. So I think it's just ignorance on the part of both sides, that they don't understand the process and what the process is about. The thing is, if we got more involved in the process, like you said, creating our own political party, which is something I suggested myself too. If we got more involved in the process, then this so-called democracy, this process would work for us in our favor if we understood how to work it. But the fact that we're so ignorant of it, we don't understand it. So we create all these misconceptions. We got all these conspiracy theories, all this nonsense about everything that you just stated. People want to think that it's some type of mysticism and some type of backdoor stuff that's going on. But people, we got to take the census serious. We definitely got to take the census serious. People think that that's some way of recording. They create these little urban legends and all that, these urban myths. But you got to take the census serious. That's something we got to take serious. This is how we're recorded. This is how we understand who we are. This is how we understand how the population breaks down. This is going to determine what goes where in terms of funds, in terms of electoral votes, things of that nature. So we definitely got to take that serious. We also got to get involved locally. I would say I always encourage people to vote locally. Make sure you understand your local propositions and amendments that they're about to pass. Make sure you understand who your local politicians are. Make sure you know where they are. Make sure you know where they stand on a lot of topics, because at the end of the day, at the very least, of the bare minimum, you definitely have influence on these local politicians. these people that you can actually reach out and touch, these people that's probably working right along with you, you know. So it's in our best interest to start to get in this process and understand it and how it works. And I yield the floor.
And let me say this, and it's powerful, man, what you just said. When we have to, with Donald Trump in office, the premium goal now is entrepreneurism. Not just being an owner-operator, but actually generating jobs for businesses that you create. Businesses that you create hire your people, employ your people, make your people shareholders of the business that you create within your communities. Now, understand this. Don't be intimidated, those that are listening. Anyone can be a business person. It's called peddling. It's been given a negative connotation, but immigrants come here and they peddle and build $1 million corporations out of peddling first. The butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker. These are community services that we all need and going to always need, like socks, underwear, and food. Food, shelter, and clothing are always going to be needed. So why am I saying this? Meaning, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to open up the next McDonald's. You don't have to do that. You can be a local butcher. You could be a tailor. You could be a dry cleaner. You could have a laundromat. You could sell things like sewing products, buttons, shoelaces, things that the community needs. Speak to your community and find out what their demand is and supply it. Do research in the neighborhood. Find out what they need to sustain their way of life or to make their life better, and offer that as an independent business person. This is what changes the commonwealth of an ethnic group. This is what raises the culturistic level and puts us in a higher class in this caste system. Unfortunately, the system is what it is, but we have to be rational thinking people. Have to think. So this is important when building that. Political parties are a fallacy. What I want to do is I want to take another 8 minutes and I want to appeal to authority of a gentleman by the name of Dr. Amos Wilson. And I want him to, he's going to expound on what conspiracy theories do to us. So this is Dr. Amos Wilson, who wrote one of the most powerful, influential Afrocentric books called Black Power.
Blueprint to Black Power, sir.
Yes, Blueprint to Black Power. Thank you, brother. Much appreciated. Thank you, sir.
Public and quite clear. I have no problem with us determining what conspiracies exist. And obviously there are conspiracies, and it's very important that we know those conspiracies. However, I do advocate that we cannot spend all of our energy into just trying to root them out, that there's much more work to be done than the mere discovery of conspiracies. Just as I have just got to saying about history, while we use our history to uplift ourselves, to uplift our esteem, to bring truth to ourselves, to transform ourselves, we must not get addicted to this. We must also look at the realities that confront us as people. And while we look at the conspiracies against us as a people, we must not also get addicted to just digging up conspiracies. As I have warned before, by the time you find out the conspiracy and who's behind it, it's too late. It's too late. It's too late. And it takes more than knowing about it to defend yourself against it. And you really don't have to know about it, frankly speaking. If you're only going to learn about conspiracy and then react, you remain in the same mode of action that we are in today, reactionary. Our orientation toward the world today as African people must be pro-actionary. Our ability to defend ourselves must occur before the fact. Our programs to liberate ourselves and to defend our liberation, enhance our quality of life, to overthrow white supremacy must go on regardless as to what other people are doing. Whether they apply this scheming or not, it does not really matter. I will assume that whites are scheming. I will assume that they are black boulets. There's no problem with that. But my thing is what? We must build an African global system that will secure us against black boulets, white conspiracy.
Yeah, I think the brother just disappeared. Hold on. Yeah, you might be having some PC issues.
I'm doing on power, that is exactly what I do. Much of the stuff that Brother Coakley deals with is dealt with as a part of my power series. Much of the information is public, actually. It's not really hidden and secret. If you have an interest in it, and that's your orientation, you can literally find it almost anywhere you want to. The important part, though, is just not naming it and pointing it out. At some point, it must be translated into a plan of action. It must become a part of the organization of the African American community. The understanding to how we will design our organizations, how we will organize ourselves, how we then will use the strength to counter these organizations. The studies of these other organizations and so forth becomes a study in preparation for strategy, not just for naming, not just for passing on gossip, and not just titillating people. But if this is the structure of the conspiracy against us, then the next issue becomes, what should be our strategy to remove this conspiracy, and what tactics should we use to destroy this conspiracy, given its design and its approach? But to merely point it out, to merely expose, and just leave it at that, really creates a problem. And ultimately, it can work against you. You can leave from one of those kind of lectures where you find out all the inside dope, feeling morally superior to those people who are conspiring against you and how dirty and low down and, you know, all that they are. But you would not be any the better off in defending yourself against them. You will not in any way have developed further steps for strengthening yourself to defend yourself against them. So persons like Coakley have an important role to play in our community by exposing certain things and situations. But we must all be cautious and recognize that that is only a part of the struggle, that this now must be integrated into other aspects of our development as people, that we must not just come into these kind of lectures to feel morally superior to another people and so forth, but we must actually use this information proactively. There will always be those within our ranks who will operate against our interests. There's nothing new about this. It's been going on for hundreds of years. It will go on in the future. And we must discover them when we can. But we must also be in a position to neutralize them as well, not just to name them and let it go at that, leaving them in their same positions and place. That requires another level of organization. And it's that level of organization that I'm concerned about.
So, some powerful words by Dr. Amos Wilson. And one thing that we actually, you know, we methodically try to do is provide empirical data, be it written, sound, or visual, to support what we speak of and to allow the individuals that are listening to. It won't be someone that's one of us telling you this is what you should think, act, or do. It's about providing information and making sure that it's consistent and precise. We hear the term scholarship thrown around very loosely. And when we talk about the word scholarship, at its definition, at its denotation, it is the academic study or achievement and learning on a high level. That's at its denotation. But scholarship can take on many connotations, okay? It can take on many other meanings, all right? So no one is beyond learning at a high level. So this moral bashing that we go through, that Dr. Amos talks about, that you're bombarded with, these conspiracies that you're bombarded with need not be influenced or over exemplified to create an addiction to the controversy of conspiracies. And the reason why I brought up this about conspiracy theories is Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the topic of every conspiracy that you could possibly name under the book when it comes to him and what he's going to do to Black people, what he's going to do to foreign people, what he's going to do to the business person, this, that, and the third. Well, the same conspiracy theories were said about Barack, Andrew Jackson, George Washington, by John F. Kennedy, and all the other presidents that were placed in this position. But if you understand political process, the power lies in the Senate. It lies completely in the Senate and the Congress. Do you know who your senator is? Do you know who your congressman is? My senator is Tammy Duckworth. My congressman is Danny K. Davis here in Illinois. Do you know who affects you locally? Do you know who's the voice for you in your capital? You got to know these things so that the political process does not seem foreign to you. A lot of our ancestors died for the right to vote. They died for the right to control or have a say-so in government. Ultimately, if we are looking at a non-integrated, liberated movement, unfortunately, that's going to require violence. No revolution of that magnitude has come by means of diplomatic process or administrative process, which are letters and requests. You don't request to be free from a geopolitical military complex. You don't just ask, okay? So we have to start thinking revolutionaries. Revolutionary will, without revolutionary skill, gets a revolutionary killed. So all our great elders in this day and time with Donald Trump, we got to start respecting. And the elders have to start respecting the youth by giving them what they've been holding on to, which is knowledge. Do not be afraid of that youth surpassing you, because that's what the youth should do. So the information that you're coddling, holding on to, and putting a price on is affecting our future. This information is free. Knowledge is free. Wisdom is at a cost. All right. So what I want to do is open the floor for comments. Any information that you may want to divulge, panel. All of you are qualified. Please speak on it, bro. I digress.
Yeah, this brother Haru. I want to highlight something too, to add on to what you were saying. There's also a system of checks and balances in place. Paraphrasing, because I don't have the official document on me, but what it states is pretty much that there are three branches of government. You have the executive branch, which is the White House or the president. You have the legislative branch, which is the Senate and the House of Representatives. And you have the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court. The system of checks and balances pretty much dictates that neither one of those branches can jump out on a limb and do whatever they want. They all have to answer to each other in some way or fashion. So it's not a situation where Donald Trump can just go do something, and that's what it is, because he has other people he has an answer to, even though he is the president of the United States. We got to make sure we understand that. And I just wanted to add that part on, and I'm finished with that.
Yes, sir. Anyone else? Melvin, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, if anybody actually watched the stats of the election, I watched it sponsored by NBC, MSNBC, and Bing. They were showing how the votes were being tallied up. And every news source had predicted Hillary was going to win. And as you see the election take place, most of the popularity votes had states turning blue. But once those electoral votes came in, it was as if Donald Trump stole those states back. And that's the power of the electoral vote. It completely knocks out the popularity vote. And I saw that live.
That is powerful. That is powerful. That's the power of the Electoral College. That's why it's in place, because what it does is it gives the states the ability to be sovereign in a national action. This is why each state has a governor. Because now the states, even though they're part of a union under commerce of constituted laws called the Constitution, that's why it's called the Constitution. There are laws that are condensed and constituted, mixed in to fit the national aspect of our laws and rights. But we have individual private rights that are given to us as human beings and citizens. When you get into these conspiracies of sovereignty and all this other silliness, dischargement of debt and all this other kind of stuff, now you're getting into hybrid forms of factual information. And by the time the conspiracy is found, it's too late. You're already either in jail or you've alienated yourself from society. And you tend to find out, wait a minute, there's no moving from this system. This is a culture. We are lacking culture. Our culture has been raped from us by culture vultures. And again, culture vulture is a modern term. And I'd rather use that term because we're here today. It's a means of communication to give you relativity to terms that were used in the past. And one other point that Dr. Amos made that is so clear, embellishing on our history. We are addicted to our history, not realizing that we can't be caught up in our past. Our past is just a barometer to create our present and provide for our future. That's what the study of history is for. world history and your ethnic Black history. Our Black history is really indicative to how we operate in the now. We're dealing in the now. Let's be logical. How much of the meta do you need to learn in order to get a job? And, I mean, well, how does it take anything past a 6th grade education to answer that question? How important is it studying whether a Hebrew is real or not, or Black or not, in order to feed your children? How is that going to prevent that? Is that person reading that Torah going to stop you or them from providing for their children? So let's stop. What we're arguing over are byproducts of racism and global white supremacy that has put us in the paradigm of splitting hairs amongst one another and actually repressing against the idea of even being Black, where you subliminally and psychologically hate being you because you feel inferior, because you feel that there's no way to operate in this system except leave it. You feel that if I go from one landmass on the world to another landmass, I'm going to magically have all my rights and privileges.
Exactly.
That is absolutely conspiracy theory laden. Because the landmass you're coming to, they're actually meeting you at the airport, going to the landmass that you're leaving. Because America, regardless of what it is and what you may call it emotionally, is the greatest government and country in the world, in the absolute world. And everybody comes here for a reason. For a reason. So let's be logical about the situation, everybody. Let's not be emotional. Let's start working in an operative action. Let's start being productive and be organized. Let's start dealing in fashion because we don't have much time. That's the issue here. We are sitting back on our laurels, counting pyramids. Okay? We're sitting back and we're waiting, and the world is still moving forward, constantly expanding and leaving us behind. Donald Trump made these statements as I played in the beginning of the broadcast. We are helpless, and white people know it. The world knows it. This government knows you're helpless. So we got to learn this process of politics and the science within it. So I want to close out with that, and I open the floor to any of the members who would like to close out. I yield the floor.
I mean, there's nothing else really to say, man. You pretty much provided that. It's a good show. Dropped a lot of information. I hope that people actually like reread some of the posts that you kind of skimmed over, because those are very important as well. And hopefully the next election they'll try to remember this.
Yes, sir. Much appreciated, Melvin. Melvin is a key component of Team Osiris. And I've said it before, with in the conscious community, debating is a big thing. That's one cat you do not want to debate again. Melvin would deal with the best debater in the community, hands down. That dude is dangerous.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Glad he on Team Osiris. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Let's do it this way. This is a team, right?
Right.
Now we obviously all of us don't agree on some topics.
Right.
And I've debated Melvin several times, and this dude has made me want to pull my hair out a few times. And I'm going on record to say that.
Yes, sir, man. Rough guy.
So yeah. That brother right there, short, real short, at any angle. That's the crazy part. Multifaceted at its finest.
Yes, sir. A little shameless plug for Mel. Shameless plug.
Appreciate it.
Well, I guess as I close out, Brother Chris, he may be at work or he may be attending the family. But, as I close out, like, comment, and subscribe. Give us feedback, family. Let us know what you thought of the broadcast. Be critical. If there's some things you don't agree with, there's some things you don't like, that only makes us better. That doesn't bother us. We applaud that because it gives us an understanding of maybe what we need to do better. So please be critical. Like the show, dislike it, comment, subscribe on it. Subscribe to Team Osiris Rises and also to Team Osiris on YouTube. Check us out on www.teamosiris.com. Please, check our website, see what's going on with us. Also, go to Team Osiris on Facebook and give us a like. Go to Team All Set on Facebook, give us a like there, and keep it moving, family. Stay focused, man. In this day and time, I don't have time to judge anyone, man. Let's see if we got any questions right quick before I bounce. Virtue TV, what's up, Virtue? You want Team Osiris to come on your channel? Time, Bo, reach out to us. Let's set up a time, and we'll come there and rock for you, bro. Just let us know. And he says, Brother Consul, the leader. Yeah. No, that I'm not. It's actually, and a lot of people think that or think Ngozi the leader. Or let me speak to that really quick. It's just respect and structure. Anyone could operate in this capacity. We just operate in order and structure because we're presenting information to the public. So we have to make sure that it's in proper fashion. That's why.
Right, like when some people say they want to unify and get things done. Well, the only way you can properly unify is with some type of structure because you have an agenda and a purpose. And it's on a smaller scale, so you can properly critique everything, you put everybody where they need to be, and you can flourish. So yeah, you gotta have that. But that's part of the slogan. And so infinitely resurrected in spirit. So we all have our own thing, but we all share the same spirit.
Yes, and our ultimate goal is spirituality with science. That right. Science is the foundation of understanding.
Right.
Science, you cannot deny science. But it does not mean that you don't have one soul. Does not mean, and that soul is forever changing, forever resurrecting. With new knowledge, your soul changes, your perception may change. You may believe in something Monday, but you may discover something Wednesday to change Monday. So every day is a new adventure for you. So we don't believe in putting people in boxes or classifying people. So that's just how we flow. And some people get their feathers ruffled behind it, but we do what we do. So with that being said, it's your boy Consul Shesh Muamun, Team Osiris. It's on the horizon, and we out.